In 2001, a lawyer named Gordon Chang published a book with a bold prediction. China would collapse by 2011. 2011 came and went. China didn't collapse. So he changed his prediction. 2012. Wrong again. Then 2016, 2020, 2021. Every single prediction failed. And here is the part that should terrify Western analysts. It's not just Gordon Chang. For 25 years, experts, economists, and politicians have been predicting China's imminent collapse. Debt crisis, real estate bubble, banking collapse, political revolution. None of it happened. And in 2026, China is still here, still growing, still challenging America for global dominance. So the question isn't when will China collapse? The question is, why hasn't it collapsed already, and what do the so-called experts keep getting wrong? For a quarter century, predicting China's collapse has been a profitable business. Books, articles, television appearances, think tank reports, all saying the same thing. China is doomed. The debt is too high. The system is too corrupt. The people will revolt. The economy will implode. Gordon Chang's book, The Coming Collapse of China, became the blueprint. He argued that China's entry to the World Trade Organization in 2001 would force the country to open up, and the Communist Party couldn't survive that openness. He was so confident he gave China at most 10 years. 25 years later, China's economy has grown 460%. Its GDP per capita increased over 4 times, and it's now the second largest economy on Earth. Every prediction was wrong. But the predictions keep coming, because admitting China won't collapse means admitting something far more uncomfortable, that a one-party authoritarian state can be economically successful, that democracy and capitalism aren't the only path to prosperity, and that terrifies the West.
Western analysts made one fundamental mistake. They assumed China worked like Western economies. It doesn't. China doesn't have free market capitalism. It has what scholars now call party-state capitalism. The Communist Party doesn't just govern China. It is embedded inside every major company, every bank, every institution. In 2017, Xi Jinping declared that the party exercises overall leadership over all areas in every part of the country. And he meant it. Major private companies, Alibaba, Tencent, Huawei, all have Communist Party cells inside them. The party approves major business decisions. It appoints executives. It controls capital flows. When Jack Ma, China's richest man and founder of Alibaba, criticized Chinese regulators in 2020, the government crushed him. His company's IPO, worth $37 billion, was canceled overnight. He disappeared from public view for months. The message was clear: no one is bigger than the party. This is what Western analysts missed. In a free market, if a company fails, the government steps back. In China, if a company fails, the party steps in. This gives China something no Western economy has: total control over economic risk. When China's real estate sector, which represented 25% of GDP, began collapsing in 2021, analysts predicted disaster. Instead, the Chinese government controlled the collapse. They shifted debt between banks. They prevented panic withdrawals. They bought time. A crisis that would have destroyed a Western economy was managed, contained, and slowly deflated, because the party controls everything. In 2026, China's official debt-to-GDP ratio is over 300% when you include local government and corporate debt. In any Western economy, that would trigger a catastrophic financial crisis. In China, it's Tuesday. Here is why. China's banking system is entirely state-controlled. The 4 largest banks in China, Industrial and Construction Bank of China, China Construction Bank, Agricultural Bank of China, and Bank of China, are all state-owned. When bad loans pile up, when real estate developers default, when local governments can't pay debt, Western economists scream collapse. But in China, the state simply moves the debt around. Bad loans from one bank get transferred to another. Local government debt gets swapped into longer-term bonds. Corporate defaults are quietly restructured. It's not a free market. It's financial engineering backed by absolute political control. Gordon Chang argued that China's banks were sitting on a mountain of bad debt and that this would cause collapse. He was right about the debt. He was wrong about the collapse, because he assumed China's banks operated like Western banks, where market forces determine survival. China's banks don't answer to markets, they answer to the Communist Party. And the party's #1 goal isn't profit, it's stability. If keeping a bank alive prevents social unrest, the party keeps it alive. If bailing out a developer prevents a housing crisis, the party bails them out. This is why every debt crisis prediction has failed. China isn't playing by free market rules, it's playing a different game entirely.
In 2025, China's trade surplus exceeded $1 trillion. Let that sink in. While analysts predicted China's economy would collapse under the weight of weak domestic demand, China simply exported its way to growth. Chinese products are everywhere. Electric vehicles, solar panels, consumer electronics, industrial equipment. China isn't just the world's factory, it's the only factory that can produce at this scale, this quickly, this cheaply. When the Trump administration imposed tariffs on Chinese goods in 2018, analysts predicted China's export economy would crumble. Instead, China found new markets. Exports to emerging economies, Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, surged. China's share of global exports didn't shrink, it grew. By 2025, China controlled over 63% of global cloud computing infrastructure manufacturing. It produced more industrial robots than the rest of the world combined. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The West can't replace China. Not in manufacturing, not in supply chains, not in infrastructure. Decoupling is a myth. American companies, European businesses, they all depend on Chinese production. Apple, Tesla, Nike, they all manufacture in China, and China knows it. This gives China leverage that analysts consistently underestimate. Every time someone predicts collapse, China pivots. New markets, new industries, new exports. It doesn't need Western consumers as much as Western consumers need Chinese production. Here's what the collapse predictions always miss. China is no longer just copying, it's innovating. In 2026, China leads the world in artificial intelligence research publications, 5G infrastructure, electric vehicle production, quantum computing patents, and renewable energy manufacturing. Let's look at the numbers. China produces over 70% of the world's solar panels, 80% of electric vehicle batteries, and 60% of wind turbines. In 2025, Chinese AI companies like ByteDance, DeepSeek, and Baidu competed directly with American tech giants. China's space program landed on the far side of the moon. It built its own space station. It launched more satellites than any other country. This isn't a collapsing economy. This is a technological superpower. Gordon Chang predicted that China's lack of innovation would cause it to fall behind the West and collapse from technological obsolescence. He was wrong. China didn't just catch up. In many sectors, it's ahead. And here's why this matters. Technological leadership creates economic resilience. If you control the supply chain for electric vehicles, solar panels, and batteries, you control the future energy economy. If you lead in AI and quantum computing, you control the next industrial revolution. China isn't betting on yesterday's economy, it's building tomorrow's. And that makes predictions of collapse look absurdly short-sighted.
Every collapse prediction assumes one thing: that the Chinese people will eventually revolt against the Communist Party. that freedom of information will expose corruption, that economic hardship will trigger mass protests, that democracy is inevitable. But here is what they miss. The Chinese government controls information better than any regime in history. The Great Firewall of China blocks Facebook, Google, Twitter, YouTube, and thousands of Western websites. Chinese citizens use WeChat, Weibo, Douyin, all monitored, all controlled, all filtered by the state. Artificial intelligence scans millions of messages per second, flagging dissent, removing criticism, suppressing organization. In 2022, when COVID lockdowns triggered rare protests in major cities, analysts said, "This is it, the beginning of the end." Within days, the protests were suppressed, organizers were arrested, discussion was scrubbed from the internet, and life went on. This is what Western analysts, raised on free speech and free press, cannot comprehend. A population can be economically frustrated without being politically mobilized. If you control what people see, what they discuss, and what they believe is possible, you control whether they revolt. China has spent decades perfecting this. Surveillance cameras with facial recognition, social credit systems, internet censorship, predictive policing. It's not 1984, it's 2026. And it's far more sophisticated than Orwell imagined. Can a revolution happen without the ability to organize? Without the ability to communicate? Without even knowing how many others share your frustration? China is betting the answer is no. And so far, they've been right.
Gordon Chang, Michael Pettis, Jim Chanos, Kyle Bass. For 25 years, prominent analysts have predicted China's collapse. Every single one was wrong. Not just wrong, spectacularly, repeatedly, embarrassingly wrong. Why? Because they projected Western economic logic onto a fundamentally different system. They assumed that debt crises must cause collapse when China controls its entire financial system. That lack of democracy must cause instability when China has perfected information control. That economic slowdowns must trigger revolution when the party prioritizes stability over growth. They analyzed China as if it were a Western economy with Chinese characteristics. It's the opposite. It's a Chinese system with some market characteristics, and the difference is everything. Here is the uncomfortable truth. China has problems, massive problems. A real estate crisis, deflation, youth unemployment, aging population, slowing growth. But problems don't equal collapse. Japan has had deflation for 30 years. It didn't collapse. Europe has had debt crises for a decade. It didn't collapse. America had the 2008 financial crisis and a pandemic-induced recession. It didn't collapse. Economies can have serious structural problems and still function. China is no different. The predictions fail because they confuse crisis with collapse.
So, will China ever collapse? Here is the honest answer. No one knows, but the pattern is clear. Betting against China has been a losing strategy for 25 years. In 2001, when Gordon Chang published his book, China's economy was $1.3 trillion. Today, it's over $18 trillion. It grew 1,300% while analysts predicted its death. In 2026, China faces real challenges. Its GDP growth has slowed to 4.5%, down from double-digit growth decades ago. Its population is aging and shrinking. The workforce is getting smaller. Its real estate sector, once 25% of the economy, is in a managed decline. Youth unemployment is high. Consumer confidence is weak. But here's what hasn't changed. The Communist Party's control over the economy, the banks, the military, and information remains absolute. China still contributes 30% of global economic growth, more than the US, Europe, and Japan combined. It still dominates critical supply chains, it still leads in key technologies, and most importantly, it has adapted every single time analysts predicted it couldn't. The question for 2026 isn't whether China will collapse. The question is whether the West will finally stop predicting collapse and start preparing for a long-term rival. Gordon Chang has been wrong for 25 years, yet he still gets invited on television, still publishes articles, still makes predictions, because predicting China's collapse is what people want to hear. It's comforting, it's reassuring, it confirms our biases, but it's not true. China isn't collapsing, it's adapting. It's not failing, it's competing. And pretending otherwise doesn't make America stronger, it makes America blind. The West spent 25 years waiting for China to collapse. China spent 25 years building an economy, a military, and a technological base that now rivals America's. If you want to understand what comes next, don't listen to the people who've been wrong for 2 decades. Look at what China is actually doing, and prepare for a world where collapse isn't coming and competition is permanent. Hit subscribe because the story of the 21st century isn't about China's collapse, it's about China's rise and whether the West is ready for it.